When Scott and Jessica Walker decided to take their baby out for lunch, things didn't go as planned because their daughter wouldn't stop crying. Later, when Jessica checked her daughter's leg, she screamed in surprise when she found out why. Stay tuned to see what happens next. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories. There are few things as priceless and incredibly precious as a newborn baby. That's why Canada's parents, Scott and Jessica Walker, were absolutely smitten with their daughter Molly when they first laid eyes on her. She was not their firstborn, but they could already see that she would make a perfect playmate and little sister for 2-year-old Maya. However, that day, they were almost starting to regret the moment they had decided to have kids in the first place. After 4 months of caring for their baby daughter, Scott and Jessica had become attuned to her various moods. They could easily differentiate between her hungry cries and those signaling a dirty diaper, and both parents knew how to soothe her with feeding, changing, or gentle back rubs. However, as soon as they entered the restaurant and settled at their table, Molly woke up and began to cry. Scott and Jessica exchanged worried glances, wondering if this was a case of Murphy's Law. Anything that could go wrong would. This was their first outing since the baby was born, and they didn't want it to be spoiled. They tried to ignore the annoyed looks and hushed whispers from nearby diners, who seemed focused on their noisy infant. Scott and Jessica understood their frustration. They hadn't anticipated a lunch accompanied by a screeching baby. Jessica checked Molly's diaper, which she had just changed before leaving home, and found it still clean. That ruled out one possibility. Although Molly had been fed an hour earlier, she refused the bottle offered by her mom and continued to cry. "Is she going to cry the whole time?" asked 2-year-old Maya. "She doesn't know how to tell us what's bothering her," Dad Scott explained. "Not like you, Maya. You're so clever, but I'm sure Mommy will figure it out." "Do you think she's teething?" Jessica wondered, recalling that babies typically start teething around 4 months. "Could be," Scott agreed. "Of course, Molly had to choose our first meal out to start this. Those little teeth can't come soon enough," Jessica said, gently probing Molly's gums as her wails grew louder. "Do you feel anything?" Scott asked anxiously. "Not a thing," Jessica replied. And all the while, Molly continued to cry. By this time, both Scott and Jessica wished that they were back home, but they had already placed their meal order and had to wait for their food. Every minute felt like an eternity as they wondered whether they had checked everything, tried everything to soothe their baby, and done their best to ignore the angry, irritated looks on the faces of their fellow diners. Nobody had said anything so far, for which they were grateful, but this definitely wasn't how they had planned the lunch to go. Scott and Jessica each tried to calm Molly down, but nothing helped. They discussed back and forth what could possibly be the explanation behind her distress. Could it be that the strange sounds and smells of the restaurant itself were setting Molly off? Could this be the beginning of a cold? As the baby screams demanded all her parents' attention, big sister Maya was also beginning to act up. She was tired of being the sensible one, and it was unfair that Molly was getting all the attention. Maya wanted help with every bite and was squirming around, looking like she might be planning her own little meltdown. Scott and Jessica exchanged glances. Clearly, they had the same thought. The situation was getting totally out of hand. Getting up, they decided to abandon the meals they had been looking forward to so much and head home instead. Scott hoped that his wife would be able to find the real cause of Molly's distress once they were back in their own space. Once back in the car, Jessica noticed that Molly seemed to have a fever, so she loosened the baby girl's romper, hoping it would help cool her down until they got home. Concerned, she wondered if Molly might be coming down with an illness like her older sister. Molly had been born a little premature and spent 3 weeks in the hospital to ensure her early development was on track. After thorough examinations, the healthcare team confirmed that she was healthy and free from complications, allowing her to return home with her parents, which brought them great relief. However, Jessica knew that premature babies can sometimes be more fragile. As a nurse, she had seen many babies get sick more often than usual, but Molly seemed to be doing well. Once home, the balancing act of parenting began. Having cared for their older daughter, Maya, Scott and Jessica felt more confident this time. They established a routine to ensure both parents could get some sleep amid the constant feedings and diaper changes. Scott took pride in being a hands-on dad, and soon, little Molly settled into a routine of her own. As Molly got older and began to sleep for longer periods, it seemed as if they might be able to prepare for a romantic outing, although this had to be organized in child-friendly surroundings and around the needs of their 2 little girls. They decided on a family lunch date, and Scott picked a suitable restaurant. As the day of their special lunch date dawned, both girls were dressed up in adorable outfits. Scott and Jessica were very proud of their 2 beautiful daughters and couldn't wait to show them off. They were also looking forward to enjoying a meal that no one had to cook and getting a night off from doing the dishes. This was sure to be a treat for the whole family, and hopefully, little Molly, who was by now about 19 weeks old, would sleep peacefully in her stroller for most of the afternoon. But unfortunately, their lunch plans hit an unexpected snag, which would almost lead to a tragic complication for little Molly. As soon as they got home, Scott and Jessica Walker rushed into action to deal with their baby girl's fever. Jessica went into nurse mode and directed her husband to get a cold compress ready. Anxiously, they waited for it to take effect while Jessica watched over the baby. Scott rushed to put Maya to bed. Understandably, the little girl didn't want to sleep at all. Her father's anxious glances toward the door and her little sister's cries didn't help either. Scott could only hope that Jessica would be able to soothe the baby soon. However, Molly's fever was not abating as expected. It was at that moment that Jessica noticed something that would finally reveal the cause of Molly's distress. The baby was still wearing her cute little baby socks. Molly's entire body seemed racked with fever, and although Jess had loosened her clothing, those baby socks should have been the first to go. After all, hands and feet are the first parts of our bodies that should be cooled down when our temperature rises abnormally. Under normal circumstances, she would have remembered that, but the baby's incessant crying had turned her brain into mush, and she had completely forgotten. As Jessica Walker finally removed the baby socks, she could not help but notice how warm her daughter's leg felt. When she removed the last sock, she gave an involuntary scream of shock. "What's wrong?" Scott asked immediately, but when he saw Molly's toe, he felt sick. Her feet were unnaturally red, showing that her cute baby socks were causing her pain. Jessica filled a basin with cool water to soothe her daughter's feet, but then she noticed something worse. One of Molly's tiny toes was horribly swollen. Realizing the urgency, Jessica quickly became a supermom. She calmly instructed Scott to grab a flashlight, tweezers, and small scissors from the baby room, then asked for a magnifying glass from the kitchen. Looking through the magnifying glass, they finally saw the problem. They were shocked to find that a single hair had wrapped tightly around Molly's toe, cutting into her skin and blocking blood flow, which caused her intense pain and the fever Jessica had noticed earlier. As a nurse, Jessica knew what to do. She told Scott to hold Molly still while she used the tweezers to carefully cut the hair. It was a tricky task, but Jessica relied on her healthcare experience to do it safely. Once the hair was removed, Molly stopped crying, which reassured her parents, but the swelling didn't go down right away. It took nearly 45 minutes for her toe to start looking normal again. This problem, which caused so much trouble, was surprisingly common enough to have a medical name. It is commonly known as a hair tourniquet. Although its cause seems so insignificant, a hair tourniquet is a serious condition that could lead to tissue death or bone erosion. If Jessica had not acted at once, Molly's situation could have worsened significantly. If the swelling gets bad enough, the offending hair can become so deeply embedded that it becomes inaccessible, and in the most extreme cases, it might be necessary to amputate the affected body part. Jessica said she had seen a few similar incidents in her years of nursing, and as Scott hit Google to read up on it, he discovered more. A hair tourniquet can affect both the toes and fingers of an infant and can occur when the baby innocently reaches out to grab a piece of the person she loves most, a parent or a caregiver. After this harrowing incident, Scott Walker followed up with Molly's doctor to ensure her toe had healed properly from the ordeal. The doctor praised Jessica for her quick thinking and immediate action, which had prevented the situation from worsening. He advised the Walkers to always check the baby's toes and fingers if she continued to cry without any apparent reason. Scott decided to share their experience on Facebook to raise awareness among other parents, nannies, and caregivers about this potential hazard. In his post, he included a link to a helpful article on hair tourniquets, noting that not only fingers and toes can be at risk, but also other delicate body parts. Since babies cannot communicate where they are feeling pain, vigilance is crucial. More than 50,000 people commented on Scott's post, with many sharing similar experiences involving their own children or the babies they cared for. In some instances, the condition required surgery to correct the damage. One commenter even warned that adults could be affected as well, particularly beauty professionals who work with clients' hair. Others added that string, fiber, and thread could pose similar dangers to young children. Scott also shared an adorable after photo, showcasing how quickly Molly returned to her usual cheerful self after the hair tourniquet was removed. Although the family missed their chance to dine out, they gained an invaluable lesson, one they would never forget. Now it's your turn. Have you heard of a hair tourniquet, or is this new to you? What do you check first when your baby cries? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated with our channel. Thank you.